So let's take a look now at our week 12 assignment guide, activity 1. And that's to make an assembly view. And really all of these are wrapped up into one thing. So I'm going to make a couple of short videos to show different aspects of that where I've done a little bit more detailed or interesting work, and I'll show you how those happen. So we want to make sure that we've got an assembly view that identifies the parts, which parts are existing or I can purchase, and which parts are new that I have to physically create. And I'm going to be looking at a shade structure or just part of it, one of the supports. And here you see an assembly view. There's a post, there's a pier, and there's a bracket and bolts. And that's basically what's there. Now you'll notice that I've got these look a little bit better right here, right? This post and this pier have a larger bold font than this bracket and bolts. And so you may be wondering how I was able to do that. So I'll demonstrate right here. The first thing to do is go into your view, into your window, and make sure that you can get to your default tray. Show the tray. And when you click on one of these things, so I've got my arrow, my selector, and I click on it, then you'll notice under entity, I'll close all these other ones up, entity info, it tells me it's a piece of text, and it tells me the font, and so I can change the font. And I think I used 18 in bold for the other ones. There we go. And so now I've got these all looking kind of cool. Okay, now, another thing you'll notice is I've got this little kind of transparent area cut out. And let me show you how to make a material transparent. So the first thing I want to do is open up my materials, and I'm gonna apply a different one to it. I'm gonna make it that thing right now, just so that it looks a little different. And also remember, I just get in the habit of updating these things constantly as I go to make sure that I've got everything in it that I want. And look, I just added this thing in here. It might show up in some of these others. That one's still okay. That one's still okay. That one's okay. And it's still okay on my parts list. So remember that when you add something, you often have to go back and fix them up. But now I'm going to go do something to this piece of material. I want it to be semi-transparent too. So when you find the piece of material that you'd like to make transparent, bring it up, and way over on the right, it's kind of hard to see. Let me bring this over to the side where you see it just a little bit better. Some of this stuff out of the way. Now you can see it just a little bit better. There's a little create material box with a plus. And if I do that when I've got one showing, then it sort of fills it in with the stuff that's in there to begin with. So to create a new material, and I want one that's kind of transparent, because I don't want everything transparent, just this one material. I'm going to call this one sand dash transparent. And of course, you give it whatever name you want. And opacity. Okay, 100% opaque means that you cannot see through it. 100% opacity means that you can see through it. So I'm going to set it for like 60 or 70. And there we go. Now I can see through it. Okay, so perhaps you want to do the whole thing. Perhaps you want to only see part of it that way. What I did is I made a little cutout for part of it. And so that it really did look like ground for most of it. Small aggregate as my main ground. Maybe it was pea gravel. I don't know. There we go. Pea gravel is my main ground. And then these ones that show a shading on it means that there's some sort of transparency that's been set to it. So I can make this one sand transparent, and you can see that now it's obvious that it's underground, but you can see the structure of it. So those are two pieces of information that you might be interested in that we haven't really gone over before. How do we take one of these pieces of text and look at the entity information, and we can work on the font with it? And the other one is materials, of how do we create a new material. And you've done that already by putting the images on the material, but this is another facet of it that you may not have looked at or been able to do before. So there we go. That's a good start to making your assembly view.